Hey guys, what's up? So my video didn't go live Tuesday. It was available to people on Spotify, and if they came to the my YouTube channel and actually saw the page, I'm talking about week 469, or if they possibly, just saw the link or something like that. But it would not go public because I got a copyright strike. Not a copyright strike, I got a community guideline strike. I got a warning and then a strike, pretty close together, for sharing external links to movie retailers like Cult Epics and Mondo Macabro. Apparently, if they sell movies that, have, I guess, what they consider pornographic material, that counts as, copyright, or a community violation. Even if maybe you shared this link 3 years ago and they changed what was in the link, right? Therefore, you're still in trouble, which is absolutely insane and ridiculous and cracking down. So who knows what will happen with YouTube. Hopefully I don't get any more community strikes. I will not be having links on my videos anymore. There'll be no links. So if you want something, send me a message, or I'll share the links on Facebook, and I'll share the links on Spotify and all other kind of podcast apps. I went through, go ahead and subscribe to me on Spotify or any podcast apps like that. So if I do disappear, you guys can still, stay connected or listen to if you want to, or watch Mrparka. There's videos on Spotify as well now, if you guys didn't know. And I went ahead and went back and made the first 20 videos of Mrparka's audio podcast that was on Spotify video. And I'm going to go eventually change all the ones that aren't video. But if my channel does get taken down in Spotify or no podcast apps pick up, with the subscribers, because it's definitely less than here. I don't know if I'll continue to do this, honestly. It's just a lot to rebuild. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll just kind of go write an 80s horror book about horror movies, which everyone else does, but it's only for my own, personal, learning and fun. So I don't know. But if this channel goes down and I have to start from scratch, there might be a chance that I'm just out for good. It's been a long time doing this, and it might be time to hang it up. It might be a sign, I guess. But sorry for all that long-winded mess right there. Yes, this one will go up Wednesday. Because I want to give time for the one that's going to go live Saturday, because it gives you a community strike, will give you a week, and then you can't make things live or whatnot. I had it unlisted, still available for the patrons and stuff, and tried to share it, but I ended up getting like 70 views or something like that, sharing it a certain way like that. So, it's much less, obviously. YouTube is the general push. It probably gives, 700 to 900 views itself within the first week. So, obviously, YouTube is the kind of main source on that, and social media and stuff it's a mess when it comes to algorithms and stuff like that. But it's absolutely insane. You can open up YouTube and watch people be murdered, and that's fine. Or you can see people commit petty crimes and monetize it. But you share an outside link to a movie that's already sold on Amazon, and holy shit, you're in trouble. Bonkers, hypocritical nonsense. I think they're using AI, to scrub the kind of like links and all that kind of stuff like that. But, AI makes mistakes and it doesn't take in consideration things. It does no context. But let's hop into the reviews. And the first one up is from Visual Vengeance. And this is one that I had heard about. I know a couple of my friends do enjoy this one. And this director has kind of a nice cult following under the underground. And this is Jeff Leroy's The Screaming. Now, I've seen Jeff Leroy's Rat Scratch Fever, which I actually enjoy quite a bit. I think it's a fun movie, pretty ambitious, and Jeff Leroy is a fairly ambitious guy, uses a lot of miniatures and a lot of big special effects, and this is The Screaming. Now, he had done a couple movies before this, one shot on, I think, a 16mm, this is shot on digital, so it's going to have that real cheap kind of SOV style look in the early 2000s, maybe it's digital SOV, it's different, you know what I mean, but they kind of have the same kind of style and whatnot when you're early in the 2000s. Shot in 99, not released, I think, until 2000. Dave Sterling actually produced that bad boy. Dave Sterling is kind of infamous when you talk about low-budget movies behind some of the Camp Blood movies, maybe all of them, but he produced hundreds and hundreds of low-budget, no-budget, do-it-yourself movies. But yeah, so this one I was a little bit excited for, and this is one of these kind of low-budget movies that kind of gets me happy that there's still some ones out there that I will enjoy, because sometimes that time frame's real iffy for me, but I did kind of grow up on a lot of that stuff, like the Tempe stuff and whatnot, and the underground stuff. So I did see a lot of that stuff. And The Screaming passed me by, and I'm glad I got to check this one out. So what makes an indie movie successful for me is typically a movie that has a great story or it has a lot of ambition to it. Sometimes it could still be a failure, but there's still stuff to admire. I thought The Screaming had a really great story. So I guess Jeff Leroy one day was at a bus stop and a Scientologist approached him and tried to sell him, the Scientology book. And he said no and tried to give it to him. He said, "I'm good, man." And the guy kind of just had he panicked. He freaked out over it. So he said, "Well, maybe I can make something with that." And kind of like the director, the Canadian director did End of the Line, that kind of cult kind of stuff like that, taking these weird kind of cults that he had heard about and making his own cult horror movie, which I love. He kind of does that as well. So our lead character here, who is also a filmmaker himself, is this kind of college kid that's studying into old religions and cults and all this kind of stuff like that. His professor is actually played by John Golf, who you'll see him in the Alpha Incident and The Fog and a bunch of classic horror films. I was very happy to see him in this. He's always with Buck Flower. Him and Buck Flower were old good friends. Berserker is another one they're in together. So essentially, I'm not 100% sure if he is. I believe he is an Alpha Incident, if I'm not mistaken. I think so. So what happens is he moves into this kind of apartment, and basically the landlady is incredibly attractive, and she jogs every morning and starts kind of working on him to go jog with her, she kind of explains her religion. She's a Christologist or whatever the fake Scientology religion that they made up in here. And she starts to kind of manipulate him and get him to quit smoking. And he's this kind of character that's definitely a anti-authoritarian character. Never believes in stuff unless there's logic. But he starts to kind of be inundated in this kind of cult. But he has his doubts and everything like that. And what you find out is an absolutely ridiculous, insane kind of reveal. I don't want to spoil everything, but you're looking at the cover here, and I kind of want to dive into it. But it does involve monsters and other things from different worlds and stuff like that. And, the reveal is a lot of fun. And another thing I will say here is the acting's pretty solid. For an indie movie, sometimes you get really poor acting that's just absolutely atrocious. I actually think all the performances in here are good to pretty good. There's nothing that was glaringly horrible, and usually there's at least a couple that are embarrassingly bad. This one definitely is aware of, the kind of satirical nature of its subject, and does have some jokes at obviously Scientology's expense, and has the infomercials and whatnot. So a lot of fun stuff like that, and basically it's a movie that he was inspired to make after he kind of had a run-in with somebody, and just the kind of wheel started going, and this is what became of it. I thought the special effects were obviously, cheap and sometimes not always effective, but ambitious and fun and appreciated, if that makes sense. When there's certain things that happen to some of the characters and they immediately age really old, think Hammer Dracula, and then they kind of dissolve, but they're obviously just dummies, which I can forgive. There's a lot of use of stop motion in here. There's two versions on here. The original version from 99 has more stop motion, kind of like Saurians, which Visual Vengeance put out, and then the kind of remaster version, which came out I think 2008, has a little bit more digital effects, and the soundtrack's a little bit different. Jay Wolfel actually did the soundtrack. Jay Wolfel is an independent director himself. He was actually on this channel when he came on and talked about Beyond Dreams Tour, which was really cool, which is a movie that I always really enjoyed. Actually sat in and kind of moderated the commentary with the lead actor for one of the Vinegar Syndrome Blu-rays. But yeah, a big fan of Beyond Dreams Door. The music is pretty solid in this one, and this is an incredibly ambitious, low-budget, fun story horror film that I was happy with, and I didn't necessarily know what to expect on this one. You never, like I said, Visual Vengeance is kind of a mixed bag for me, but I always am interested in watching what they have. But yeah, this is a nice release here. It's a new director supervised SD master from existing tape element, so it is SOV. Commentary with Tony Strauss of Wang Chop magazine. I think I've heard of Tony Strauss before on other commentaries for Visual Vengeance. This is a good commentary. He does a solid job. A lot of information. Screaming and Screaming Again, the making of Screaming. The Screaming, not very long, but still interesting enough. Composing a cult movie, classic. Music, composer Jay Wolfel. Interview, bonus feature film The Screaming Reborn. Director remastered alternate version of the movie. The Screaming Reborn commentary with director Jeff Leroy, producer Dave Sterling, and star Vinny Bilancio. And this is kind of comedic, and they kind of have some fun and some beers. And we also have the original commentary as well, which they didn't mention on here, but there is one. And then CD soundtrack of the original score by Jay Wolfel, Image Gallery original trailer, The Screaming Reborn trailer, Visual Vengeance trailer, folded mini poster reversible sleeve featuring original VHS art. I'm an idiot. I just talked about the second commentary and then I said there was one. But yeah, it's not listed here. They're both listed. The brain cells falling out of my head right now. But yeah, it is region free. Cool cover art there. I think I like this one a little bit, but no, they're about the same. But yeah, check it out. Cool movie, interesting concept. The Screaming, 1999. All right, the next one is from 88 Films, and this is The Angry River. And this is a really early Golden Harvest film. Now, Golden Harvest kind of came out to compete with the Shaw Brother movies, and they really didn't catch their footing until the Bruce Lee movies, right? And those came out, and boom. And then, Golden Harvest caught up real quick. Golden Harvest, I think, is probably still going on. I mean, they made a lot of great films through the mid and late 80s, and the Shaw Brothers really weren't making that stuff here. So, this one here, this one I had not really heard much about. I believe this one is filmed in Thailand. It has to be Thailand. It's just too colorful, and I was listening to the commentary and I missed that. But yeah, so it's a period piece, kind of a classic kind of kung fu kind of wuxia style movie, which we're very familiar with from this time. But what we have is, in the very beginning, basically these four masters are all hit with this poison spike, and they all die, and we're kind of being led by this guy who's like kind of discovering it, and goes, "This is our hero," and then we have like a trick shot right away, and he dies, and then we have these other characters showing up to like kind of the kind of main kind of like guy who's in charge, kung fu kind of master, and then this guy's showing up, and he says, "Listen, my father, all these people are killed, they're sick with this poison, and I want some answers." Come to find out, the bad guys are around this whole fort, and they basically tell them, "You guys cannot leave. If you leave, you will be killed." They go to check on their master, and he's also been poisoned. So the daughter of the master, who's a kung fu expert, martial arts kind of expert, decides that, "I'm going to leave. I don't care. There's only one thing that can save my father, and it's this special mushroom that you have to go through and do all these horrible things to get, right? It's kind of a feat of strength and all this endurance and whatnot to get this mushroom, and it's the only thing that can save her father." It reminds me a lot of, I cannot remember the Shaw Brothers flick's name, but it's the one where they have to travel cross country and go into like the cold world and whatnot, and if you stay too long without the gem, you freeze. I know there's probably somebody like Ryan Smith knows exactly what movie I'm talking about. But so what happens is she ends up going on this mission, and she's greeted by this angry man at the river, right? This kind of big guy, and he's like, there's a couple other people there that want the mushroom as well, and the first test is getting passed through him, and nobody quite does it, but the master of the kind of the woods here ends up taking sympathy with her and lets her through, and ends up saving her again when she's attacked by some sort of water dragon thing. And the key here is, if you make it that far and you are given the mushroom, you have to give up your martial arts powers. So here she is with the mushroom on the way back to her father, and she has no martial arts power, so she has to use her quick wit and whatnot to survive, while a couple of people along the road are after her, including these kind of nasty gang of bandits and somebody that she had a run-in with who you thought maybe possibly was a decent person, but they're going to show their true colors. Of course, this wouldn't be, your typical, Golden Harvest or Shaw Brothers flick unless she does have some help, so we have this kind of kind gentleman who's also an amazing, martial artist, going to help her along the way to get back to home. But when she gets back home, there's tragedy has struck, and it's exactly what you expect to happen. And this mushroom not only gives you back your martial arts powers and heals you, but it gives you twofold the powers. So we know exactly where the big climax is going to come from, and yeah, some good fight scenes. The one thing that really stood out with this one is there's plenty of blood spray in the early 70s and stuff, and we started getting a little bit more violent in the late 60s, early 70s kind of kung fu movies, but we're having a lot of blood spray, decapitations. This one kind of pushes the boundaries, I would say, for the kung fu kind of violence and stuff like that. But overall, pretty solid movie. Looks pretty good as well. Definitely a little cheaper than some of the Shaw Brother movies at this time. This is early, like I said, Golden Harvest, but we have stunning 2K restoration from original negative, original Mandarin mono with English subtitles, English dub. I watch the Mandarin. Sometimes I go with the English dubs, but this one felt better and more appropriate with the Mandarin this time around. Audio commentary by Asian film experts Frank Jin and Michael Worth. That's always good, Frank Jin. I don't remember hearing how much this one made. He usually always goes on the box office and stuff, but they definitely point out young Sammo Hung in here with blonde hair. They also point out a lot of other touches, how how Golden Harvest got its start, and how this actress, the lead actress in here, has a restaurant in New York. All sorts of cool little tidbits of information. Mandarin trailer, reversible sleeve featuring original Hong Kong poster art. So decent, solid, Hong Kong martial arts movie. Nothing super amazing, but definitely an interesting kind of early one here. This is The Angry River, and 88 put a couple of these out, early Shaw Golden Harvest one's out, which I'll definitely be looking forward to checking out. Okay, we're going to start a box set here. We're finishing one this week, and we're starting another one. This is Giallo, Guns, and Gore, the brutal films of Darren Ward. Now, Darren Ward is a director that's been on my radar forever. This is from Treasured Films, which has a few United States releases here, a couple that I have checked out here. And yeah, I'm kind of excited about this. It says Sudden Fury, Day of Violence, and Beyond Fury here. Now, Sudden Fury is 1997, SOV, very low budget movie here. And this isn't Darren Ward's first film. Actually, a couple of his films are on here that I believe are actually earlier than this, which is crazy here. So we have the short that kind of inspired this one. Let me get the title on this one. Blue Fear. No, that's the Blue Bitter Vengeance, 94. And then we have an early short film, Blue Fear, 93, which is actually over an hour long. It's a Giallo style inspired thing. And then we have early film short, Parla del Vola, 1992. So if you guys haven't told from those titles, you can tell where Darren Ward wears his influences on his sleeves. You can tell inspiration from stuff like, Quentin Tarantino, John Woo, Lucio Fulci, Sergio Leone, Sam Peckinpah, Rambo films, all these kind of big inspirations. Darren Ward definitely seems like a film fanatic. So this movie runs damn near 2 hours long, and a low budget movie that's kind of a no-no for me. So this one opened up, and how I was talking about the Screaming, which had a great story. I don't know if Sudden Impact, is it Sudden Impact? I want to call it Sudden Fury. Sorry, Sudden Impact is the Clint Eastwood Dirty Harry movie. All the Suddens always mix me up. Sudden Death, Sudden Impact, Sudden Fury. But this one here, it opens up in a very like Tarantino kind of style, where we have this crime lord who looks way too young to be a crime lord. That's going to be kind of a thing here. A lot of these guys are going to look way younger. I imagine these are incredibly young filmmakers out here making this movie. Super ambitious, huge cast too. So this crime lord who's like hired these kind of goons to steal this $2.5 million in coke. They fuck up, and there's a lot of language, a lot of screaming, a lot of angry reactions, and some people end up dead. And we kind of find out that this guy, I think Randall, is trying to move in and take Harris's drugs and his territory and all these things like that. He hires a hitman like Walker, and he has his main kind of henchman Jimmy. So these are Jimmy, Randall, Walker, Lennox. There's another kind of villain here. So we have all these kind of characters as our main characters, and this movie feels like kind of like three movies in one. We have like the Reservoir Dogs style thing, and then we have a lot of these introductions of characters and these guys that are hitmen, and they're supposed to be like grizzled guys, but they're like screaming at each other like they're children, which again is just it's a holdup of a lot of independent movies, right? And that way that you're having like all these ambitious effects and these crazy guns and plots and violence, but at the same time a lot of it feels very adolescence, which I can appreciate to a certain extent and everything like that. So first and foremost, I hate dogging on indie movies, because these are the kind of movies that inspire people to make movies. These are the kind of movies that I wish I would have made when I was younger. These are the kind of movies that, can really mean a lot to you if you see them at a certain time and age. And some people may still see them and mean a lot to them. And I just wish I would have saw Darren Ward's movies a little bit earlier. And he's always on my radar. But I appreciate what he's doing here. When I watch stuff like the Cliff Tremble movies and stuff like that, I can see some of that in here as well. So like the first act is very Reservoir Dogs, and after a while we start adding all these like convoluted characters and these double crossings and backstabbings and long scenes where they're cussing and arguing, and that stuff really doesn't work for me. But really what works for me is the incredible insanity where the action starts to take place, these squibs, the explosions, and the end of this movie is like 30 minutes in a warehouse, very John Woo, where a couple characters are just running amok, shooting and killing everybody that they cross paths with and getting shot as well. And I was just incredibly impressed with that kind of scale of, chaos and mayhem. And I watched the Alex Chandon shorts last week, another British kind of splatter guy. It's a completely different style, These ones, I imagine that they're having fun making this, Darren Ward to a certain extent, a lot of hard work. But, I feel like Alex Chandon is definitely more of a comedic kind of element in his early shorts and everything like that, more splatter, more trauma. And this is more oriented towards more of a serious kind of crime focus, although I'm sure that they had some crazy gags and shit on the set and everything like that. But just two different approaches, and making a serious approach when it falls short in certain aspects is much more of a riskier, I think, endeavor. So they're definitely doing it on that element there. Another thing I really noticed here while watching Sudden Fury is the camera work. Now, like I said, some of the acting and some of the script stuff is just sloppy or convoluted, and the pacing's a little off. But the camera tricks and camera fun and all that kind of stuff, even on a low budget shot on video, I was like, oh, that's a good shot. That's an interesting shot. That's a cool shot too. And the way it ends, I'm like, that's interesting as well. Like, so you can just watch this and be like, oh, Darren Ward has a lot of talent where to put the camera, all that kind of stuff like that when it comes to effects, pyrotechnics, and all that kind of shit like that is much more than I think a lot of the stuff in here it's better than some of its parts, if that makes any sense. Some of the stuff is top notch, some of the stuff is bottom of the barrel for me. So it's definitely a weird one to watch for me. Like, I wish I would have saw this younger. I guarantee that I would have a lot more love for it. But watching it now, I can definitely appreciate it. I'm definitely looking forward to his other films as well. I should mention, there is one really standout actor in the movie, and this is David Warbeck, classic actor from The Beyond and Twins of Evil and Fistful of Dynamite. Just one of our favorite kind of horror icons. If you're watching this channel, Warbeck died right after this movie, or maybe before this movie was even released in 97, 98. I can't remember. I think it was cancer. But Warbeck is unhinged and crazy in this one. He plays, what is his name? I remember him having him Pike, and I wonder if that's a shout out to the Wild Bunch as well. While I was watching it, I said, I wanted to be a shout out to Pike Bishop from the Wild Bunch, which I always had a fondness to that name. It's my dad's nickname, Pike, Pioki Pike. But interesting stuff. Definitely worth watching if you're a fan, an aficionado of low budget, epic kind of craziness. I don't know if I can give it a wholehearted recommend, but I think you should watch it, especially if you like chaos and splatter. It delivers on that. Newly remastered and graded 720 HD and making its worldwide Blu-ray debut on compressed English DTS HD master audio, audio commentary by Darren Ward and Nick Rendell. And this is an old commentary kind of for the DVD in like 2002, I think, or something like that. So they're doing the whole don't spoil it, which is a weird thing that a lot of early commentaries did. Sudden Fury 12 Years On, retrospective documentary, The Crime Trilogy, Part 1, Sudden Fury interview with Ward, looking back on the making of the film. I think that's like 12 minutes or so. Deleted scenes, outtakes, behind the scenes makeup reel, early short films like I already went over. And subtitles. So from Giallo Films, treasured films here release. Definitely worth watching if you're into indie carnage. This is definitely one that I think you'll enjoy. But remember, it's a little long-winded and the acting definitely leaves some to be desired, but it is also David Warbeck's last film, and he never disappoints. All right, we're going to finish up the Empress of Darkness box set here, the Suzzanna box set by Severn Films. We already covered the Queen of Black Magic documentary and Ghost Ambulance, as well as Malam Satu Sura and Q Long Friday Night, which I enjoyed both of those. The reviews are from the previous 2 weeks if you want to check them out. Now we're diving into one from 88 and one from 91, so we're kind of seeing a little bit of later in the Suzzanna career, and I want to start with Pact with Forces of Darkness from 1991. I think this is the more interesting of the two, although they're both batshit crazy. I think it's the more untypical of the two, but maybe it's typical in a different kind of way. So this is also directed by Sisworo Putra, the premier Indonesian horror director, one of 3 or 4, I would say. But so in 1991, there seemed to, I don't know what happened, but did Asia, kind of like Southeast Asia or whatever, or just that general part of Asia, India and Indonesia and stuff, did they get Nightmare on Elm Street like 1 and 4 or something like that? Because if you see the, I can't think of the Indian Nightmare on Elm Street from 1991, Malahok, I always mispronounce that, but that's essentially a ripoff of Nightmare on Elm Street 1 and 4 kind of merged together. So this one here is just essentially Suzzanna as Freddy Krueger, which is absolutely hilarious. They change a little bit, but my review put Suzzanna's back, because this is a Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4 with Suzzanna. So in the opening of this movie, we have kind of a crime, kind of a shady businessman, which is very typical of the Indonesian movies. This upper middle class kind of villain, and he basically says, "I want this guy's taking over his position, taking to get the house that the company gave him, all this kind of shit like that." So he's very salty about it. So he wants to hire, a gang of I think 4 or 5, I think it's 5 kind of criminals to take out this guy. But he lets them know, do not kill the kids or Suzzanna or anybody else in the family. Suzzanna's married to this man. Of course, these thugs aren't going to listen. They go in the house with reckless abandonment, and they absolutely massacre everyone. I don't know what it is about Indonesian films from the 80s and 90s, but they sure love killing kids. Bunch of dead kids in this box set. Dead Kids, the box set. Not to be confused with Strange Behavior, aka Dead Kids. But anyways, so they kill the entire family. Suzzanna dies, and Suzzanna makes a deal with some sort of ancient demon. Is it a dream demon? Not really, but he kind of is. So he basically, it's not a dream demon. That's the one thing that's a little bit different. And the opening basically makes a deal to come back and get revenge, and they kind of morph together. So Suzzanna's running around with a Freddy glove. I'm not kidding. She has a fucking Freddy glove, and she starts picking these guys off in the ways of Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, including the beach scene. Suzzanna in sunglasses, check. Suzzanna stepping on somebody's head in the sand, check. Suzzanna in a junkyard with a bunch of cars, check. Suzzanna fighting and being an invisible and fighting somebody, an invisible force, check. This is Nightmare on Elm Street 4 with Suzzanna, told through the lens of an Indonesian horror flick. Entertaining, definitely worth watching, and very fun to watch Suzzanna ham it up and cheese it up like this. So I enjoy this. It's fun. It's definitely fucking weird. I think it would make a great double feature with Mala Hawk or whatever if you watch that one in 1.5 speed, because it's an Indian movie and it's way too fucking long for a Nightmare on Elm Street ripoff. But I think it's a really interesting kind of piece of horror history in the early 90s that all these countries must have had like exposure to the Nightmare on Elm Street movies at that time. And it's just so weird. Or maybe Part 4 was the only one released, because these movies are very much like Part 4. This one's even more so than the other ones. I would recommend checking out. It's such a bizarre name. It's Pacts with the Forces of Darkness, which is really weird. But they also kind of have to walk that line where Suzzanna can't be a complete villain, right? Where she can't be the real Freddy Krueger that's the villain. She has to be possessed by some sort of creature, right? Or demon that is inside of her that Suzzanna's being controlled, but also wants to get the revenge. So the revenge is fun. The bad guys are goofy. It's absolutely over the top and weird and ridiculous, and it's a fun one. This is Pax with Forces of the Evil. Okay, the last one that we're going to talk about in the Empress of Darkness Suzzanna box set is White Crocodile Queen, not to be confused with Alligator Queen from 1982, another Indonesian horror flick. And I think this one is a little bit more eventful than Alligator Queen, right? Very common to have like crocodiles or alligators as kind of these subjects in their movies. They're definitely more of a prevalent kind of animal in their culture and used for a lot of people changing and morphing into crocodiles and whatnot. This is actually the director of Mystic in Bali, which is an amazing Indonesian horror flick where you have people turning from animal to man and back and forth and stuff like that. But yeah, this one it's a batshit crazy opening. A woman is pregnant and she's giving birth, and the husband has this kind of this red gem that supposedly controls the crocodile population, right? And he has this red gem, and or she give birth to. It's really bizarre. So she gives birth to this albino crocodile that shoots out in the water and swims away, and it gives the husband the gem on it. And they're like, okay, that's one of our daughters, I guess. And there's a baby as well that gets born. And right after they're born, we have some goons that end up, killing both of them. They actually kill the husband and wife, and this bad guy, the classic kind of Indonesian character actor who's in almost all these movies, ends up taking the gem for himself. And we kind of fast forward, and we're seeing where, like these Suzzanna characters plays like dual roles, right? Suzzanna is kind of like one half like crocodile kind of woman who lives kind of a normal life, and then we have one that's kind of like a crocodile queen that lives and controls the crocodiles. But this guy has this gem, right? So he is actually controlling the crocodiles. So what we have here is he's using it as illegal poaching. He'll go there and say, crocodiles come out, and they will start killing them. But these crocodiles are shapeshifters, right? So essentially this obviously upsets the crocodiles, and they're dying, and they're losing everything like that. So this guy is definitely pointed out as the bad guy. He's also a complete sleazeball. So on his spare time, he cheats on his wife with the Suzzanna character, has her own apartment, all this kind of stuff like that. But the son's also interested in Suzzanna, so it's up to Suzzanna or the Suzzannas to start getting revenge on these people by bringing them into the water and having the crocodiles eat them and all that kind of stuff like that. Then kind of happy to see that there's no actual crocodiles like harmed in the movie. There's a lot of bad like puppets that I think are fun looking, you know what I mean? They're not as good as Killer Crocodile from Italy, but they'll do. But and like having them like poach these kind of crocodiles and whatnot. It's a batshit weird crazy movie, completely insane. The sets are wild and weird. This is probably like, I don't know if I put it on my bottom of these movies. It is a little kind of hard to follow at certain times because it gets so fucking bonkers. It looks great and it sounds great for what it is, this low budget kind of movie. But I definitely would be more likely to recommend Pact with the Forces of Darkness than White Crocodile Queen. There's no special feature on this disc itself. So if we're looking at this set as a whole, I definitely think it's worth your time if you're into Indonesian horror flicks or Asian flicks. Again, I think that a lot of people who are well versed in horror films from America and North America, Canada, and stuff like that, and even Italy, I think that they probably used a lot of the resources. Like, I don't want to say like dried that well, because there's always hidden gems in movies that haven't wide releases. But if you're looking to kind of like explore more horror that you might have missed out on, you know, Asia is a great place, and especially not just Japan, Hong Kong, Indonesia, especially these places that a lot of people haven't dived into, and there's plenty of these movies. But yeah, Suzzanna is definitely this cultural icon, definitely unique, interesting, and as the movies go on, I don't know if it's just me watching, but she definitely becomes more like a sexual presence, as I guess it's more permitted in these movies and becomes more sexual and whatnot as she gets older too in the movies, which is a bit different, I think, when you compare it to, you know, American films. But not always, though. Certain actresses definitely become more like that, like kind of older sexual lady that has that kind of power. But she's dynamic in there. But yeah, I would recommend this box set. I really enjoyed it from Severin Films. All right, guys, let's get into those 1981 movies.
I have returned.
Okay. Show me.
Where is the music now? The sound of laughter. There was never laughter.
Like
What's what like?
screwing a psycho.
What the fuck was that?
It's gone.
Guy blows dead dogs. Just lay it in there.
Eat shit and die, Ricky!
Eat shit and live, Bill.
Yeah, Bill, he's a little wet.
31. 32. 32. Year of a man's prime, loved by many women. He might still learn to swim. 32. Going. Gone.
The kid was cut in half, Arnie. They had to scrape his legs up with a shovel.
Well, isn't that what you're supposed to do with shit? Scrape it up with a little shovel?
One final moment of revenge.
Wondering what's real. All of it is real.
You want to see something really scary?
You bet.
Really?
Yeah.
Get the video, Joe! Long live the new flesh!
No choice but to kill the son of a bitch.
Living one's entire life in a state of fear. It is all I have ever known. Fear.
Are you ready?
Okay, go ahead. What are you doing?
And the first one up needs no introduction. This is 10 to Midnight, starring the man, the myth, the legend, Charlie Bronson. That's right, directed by J. Lee Thompson, who worked with Charlie Bronson more than any other director. Great director, did Cape Fear, Guns of Navarone, and he also did a bunch of Bronson movies, including 10 to Midnight and Death Wish 4 and stuff like that. So this is kind of a weird, this is also the first produced canon film with Charlie Bronson, the first one that they went out and wanted Bronson and got him in this movie. So this is kind of an oddball thing. There was kind of two kind of projects. Somebody wanting to make one with Bronson, and then they had this other script. I can't remember exactly the details, but it's an amalgamation, and they put it together. The title 10 to Midnight was used later. I think it was called like Blood something. It's not really, the title is a great title, but it's not really in the movie. This also stars a lot of people that you recognize. Andrew Stevens, who worked with Bronson in Death Hunt. Love Andrew Stevens. It's also got Wilford Brimley as kind of the police chief. You know, he had a nice little run in 82 with Death Valley and The Thing and whatnot. Andrew Stevens was in The Seduction from 82, the year before. And we also got Gene Davis. Gene Davis was brothers with Brad Davis. Brad Davis had a tragic end, Midnight Express, Queer L. But Gene Davis, I know, of course, from Cruisin'. He plays one of the homosexual, hustlers that, in the beginning of the film. A very memorable role. And he's fantastic in this movie. Charles Bronson's also fantastic. Oh, we got Jeffrey Lewis is in here. There's other people that pop up in here, too, that is very fun to see. But, so the plot is essentially Bronson is an old cop. He's willing to bend the rules to get the bad guy. I don't follow the law. I do what's right. So that kind of guy, right? He's old and he's tired of letting the bad guys get away. Very much in line with the early 80s. We got a Dirty Harry movie this year. We got all that stuff, vigilante stuff from the year before, and a bunch of vigilante stuff. The Death Wish from 2 came out in 82. So, this one, definitely Bronson is the main star here. Andrew Stevens is a young partner of his that gets paired up with him. And, of course, we have the old and young guy. And there is kind of a crazy killer going around that has definitely a wild gimmick, right? He strips down naked and runs around and stabs people, and basically, like Night of the Hunter, his knife is his utensil, like Bronson says. That's kind of what they are saying. And basically, he's basically formed after they talk about in the commentary like J. Thompson made him after Richard Speck and Ted Bundy. So they put a lot of the kind of serial killer things, the car he drives, the end scene with the nurses towards the end. But Bronson knows this guy's guilty right away. I mean, and I make a joke. This is how you sum up 10 to Midnight. I know he's guilty. He was masturbating. That's basically the whole kind of thing of the movie. But Bronson's got a hunch on this guy. Although there's, I think Lisa Langlois is in this too. Correct me if I'm wrong. I could have swore that was her in the theater. I meant to look that up. But from Class of 84 and Deadly Eyes. But Bronson's got this hunch that it's him. Although, as the audience, as if you were Bronson's point of view, he actually doesn't have real proof. But when the killer starts to focus on Bronson's own daughter, who's a nurse, who starts a relationship with Andrew Stevens, that's when Bronson starts to turn and really not take anything. He's definitely going to start to plant evidence, if you will. And that's kind of one thing that I think was really kind of the interesting point in this movie, right? Because Bronson's character is not... You love Bronson, so you're always going to root for him. But at this point, he breaks the law, and he admits to breaking the law. So at that point, he's on the outs, right? Where Andrew Stevens is the young good cop who does suppose the right thing. But everybody's on the side of Bronson. But nobody really hates Andrew Stevens. So I think this movie handles it pretty well, right? Like we were talking about Hunting Ground, from this year as well, the Jorge Grau movie is like kind of a style in a rape revenge-o-matic, more so I would say. But it's definitely kind of playing with these ideas. And I know a lot of people will hear this and be like, this is completely like the void of any kind of like intelligent thought process in this stuff, or why this is, the void of morally bankrupt kind of film. But it's a fucking movie, guys. And it's a cathartic movie that people watch, right? And Bronson's entertaining. The killer's great. He's scary. He's got this complete sociopath or psychopath kind of demeanor down. I never can tell the difference. I think a psychopath does whatever he wants, no matter if he's going to get in trouble and hurts whoever. And a sociopath does whatever he wants without getting in trouble. He doesn't care if he hurts anyone. I don't know the difference. I'm not a doctor, right? But essentially, Gene Davis plays this as a completely cold, calculated, empty monster, where he gets angry at certain things when somebody gets the best of him. And it's funny because, like, all the girls say he's so handsome, but he's just a monster on the inside. He's just somebody that's completely a creep, and he's totally plays a creep perfectly well. I think he's incredibly well cast, and I think Gene Davis, I would have liked to see him have a bigger career than he did, personally. And him with he ended up coming back, I think, for another Bronson movie. The commentary is fantastic. You got two of them on here. One's Paul Talbot. The Bronson is loose guy. Bronson does the Bronson is loose again books. So this guy is the best commentator when you're getting Bronson. The right amount of information, the right amount of kind of just talking about the movie in general and scenes like that. Just overall, one of the best when it comes to the best for Bronson for sure. And then we also have a commentary. I think it's with one of the producers and maybe a writer. I can't remember exactly, but it also has David Duvall, which is a good commentary as well. I think that's the one from the original Twilight Time release, which I had. This is the Scream Factory one here, which is definitely an upgrade from my memory. And what else do we have in here in terms of special features? We have a slew of them. Also, I think the actress Lisa Ilbacher, who plays Bronson's daughter, is pretty good in this too. She's an actress that I don't really get to see very much. but I think she does a really good job. As far as the features, we have interviews with actor Andrew Stevens, Robert F. Lyons, who's great, who's worked with Bronson before. He's also in Dark Knight of the Scarecrow. Great movie there. And Jenna Tomasia and producer Lance Hull. New commentary with author Paul Talbot, of course. Audio commentary with producer Pancho Cooner, casting director John Crowther, and film historian David Duvall. Theatrical trailer, radio spots, still gallery. Also love the music in here. It's got like the synthy style, and it's incredibly memorable. I think most people that did see this probably saw it on TV at some point and never forgot the naked running around killer and whatnot, even though they have two different versions of the movie, the clothed and the unclothed version. But I would recommend this one. I think it definitely does have that, like, it fits perfectly in with the 80s kind of killers too. Like if you're looking at like these kind of characters that have like this homosexual tendency within them too, because they hint at it, but they don't blatantly say it in this one. In fact, they cut some stuff out that would have suggested it, but and stuff like, the Fan with Michael Biehn has it in there as well, and I definitely could see this kind of being in there too, like those characters that are obsessed. This character also reminds me a lot of Richard Ramirez, right? Just that kind of spree crazy kill, and the end scene where it's less graphic, gory, and more kind of sexual than you think. There's plenty of nudity, although a lot of the nudity is not pleasant. It's one of those, but this is a great kind of thriller, I'd say, thriller crime, then probably horror. A lot of people consider it a slasher. This is probably the closest that Bronson ever got to a horror movie besides House of Wax and maybe Master of the World, but House of Wax definitely. But yeah, this one I would say is probably his second closest to a horror film. Some people do consider it a horror film, and I wouldn't tell them they're wrong. I'm not sure where I consider it, but I like this one. And I love I hate quiche. I love that line in the movie. It's brilliant. And listen to the commentaries. I guess that was reflective of a book that came out around the time that said men aren't supposed to eat quiche, and it's just fucking hilarious that they put it in there. So stupid that people are like, I base my masculinity on my diet only. And it's just people, like, that kind of shit always comes off to me as just this kind of, this idea of how fragile everything is. It's like, if guys don't think I'm masculine enough, they'll think I'm who gives a shit? Like, dude, people that don't care, I think, come off more masculine than the people that are constantly worried about how masculine they are. It's like, who gives a shit, guys? Come on, wrap it. Eat the fuck quiche if you want to eat it. Although I do actually hate quiche. It's fucking gross. But 10 to Midnight, recommended. Love it. Okay, the next one here is a post-apocalyptic movie. We're running through these ones here, and this is one that I have never seen. This is Exterminators of the year 3000. Definitely in line with, of course, Road Warrior and Escape from New York coming out in 81, and I think both 81. And then, of course, we had the N.G.O.G. Castellari first one, Escape the Bronx, New Bronx Warrior. Which one is it? New Bronx Warriors, 82. And then we had he made the sequel, Escape the Bronx, and the other one, New Barbarians, in 82. We had a slew of these. That was 83. So that other one was 82. So we had a slew of these in 83. Raiders of Atlantis, the Ruggero Deodato one. So many of these came out. Some of them are by lesser known directors. This director that's going under Jules Harrison, that's obviously not his real name. This is a Spanish-Italian co-production. And really, who stars in this? The big star is Ugo Tucci. And Kamado Teddy present. That's the producers. This actor here, Robert Anani Nucci, was an American actor, a model that they got to pop up in this movie. Never really seen him in anything else. Don't think he really did much of anything else. He's on the commentary. He seems like he has some humor involved with this movie. Then we have Elisa Moro, another actress that I don't know off the top of my head, but we have with Alan Collins, Eduardo Farru, Fred Harris. Beryl Cunningham is an actress I know quite a bit. I'm reading off the back here to remember everybody, but Beryl Cunningham was, a model, I think, as well, originally, but she's in a bunch of movies from 1970, including The Secret Life of Dorian Gray, just in a lot of these stuff. She's a pretty decent presence. And then we have Luca Vettini as the role Tommy, and of course his father is in here too, Vettino Vettini, who is a classic, Italian character actor and stuff like City of the Living Dead, Cannibal Apocalypse, and Fatal Justice with Joe Don Baker. So yeah, we have a decent cast. They didn't even mention the biggest actor in the whole entire fucking movie, Luigi Pagazzi. Luigi Pagozzi is in this movie, and he's the best role in the fucking movie. So this is pretty standard post-apocalyptic stuff here. As far as the features, before I get into the story, I'll just get over those. We have an interview with the lead actor, and it's a decent interview, but there's a commentary with Bill Olsen from Code Red in him, which is pretty funny when Bill Olsen's like, this movie's terrible. This movie sucks. And he's like, this is the worst of these movies. People say these movies sell. I'm proving it doesn't sell. And he's just basically bad-mouthing this movie in front of the actor. Cool. It's lucky the actor's cool. He's like, yeah, this isn't great, is it? But it's pretty funny. They also dog on the lead bad guy in this, which kind of was a relief, to be brutally honest. This movie has the worst lead villain I've ever seen in any of these fucking movies. He's a ripoff of Vernon Wells from The Road Warrior. He sucks. He has no charisma. He's poorly dubbed over. He's way too old for the fucking role. Out of all these movies, and I mean, I've watched a bunch of these, usually you get like a George Eastman or a Vic Morrow or somebody fucking great as the villain. This is, without a doubt, the worst villain in any post-apocalyptic movie I've ever seen. Beryl Cunningham is his right-hand girl. She's okay. Luigi Bugatti is a guy who does fiddling and fiddles with things and fixes things. He's fun. The lead guy's okay. He's definitely got that Michael Sovkin kind of vibe too. If I said his name right, from After the Fall of New York and Monster Shark. He did like 4 movies, Last Fighter in Italy, another American guy, and then kind of disappeared. So he's got that kind of vibe going on. Maybe they were trying to recreate that. Even though I think one of those is the same year. I think all the rest are after. So, definitely had the same idea to import, kind of a handsome kind of American guy, make him look like an Eastwood or something, or a Kurt Russell. But this one, it's just so boring and bland, and it just never gets started. It takes fucking forever. Oh, also the main bad guy from Django is in here as well, as kind of like this mayor of this town. They're fighting over water this time, not gas. Everybody's dehydrated. They're fighting over the water and all that kind of crap like that. It's boring. There's some chases that are okay. Nothing really works in it. It's not the worst movie ever made. It's just the most generic, boring, by the numbers post-apocalyptic movie of 1983. I'm sure of it. But yeah, I'm watching all the Italian ones, of course, but this is Italian co-production. Yeah, the kid in here is okay. I enjoyed the kid. He's fun. Luigi Pagazzi's fine. Bettini has a small role, but main bad guy sucks. Not a huge fan of it. But yeah, you could skip this one. You could skip Exterminators from the year 3000 unless you're a fucking completist or, a glutton for punishment like myself. All right, we're here for a very special Patreon pick. I think this was a Tyler Tadeo. This definitely feels like a Tyler Tadeo pick. This is kind of the stuff he would pick. Usually stuff I really enjoy or classic cinema. Bruce Holecheck decided to join me to cover Suddenly Last Summer, directed by Joseph Mankiewicz, who I actually only know from one movie, although he's a very pretty much a great director, but I know him from There Was a Crooked Man, which I love. That's a great movie. But yeah, this has a all-star cast.
A solid weird Western, There Was a Crooked Man. Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by that too. I hadn't seen that until the Warner Archives Blu-ray came out, and yeah, so that was a fresh watch for me, and yeah, I had a lot of fun with that.
I think I picked it up directly because Warren Oates is in it. And like anytime there's a Warren Oates movie, I grab it. And usually he never disappoints. And he's tremendous in that movie, as is Burgess Meredith and Kurt Douglas and Alan Hale and everybody else in the movie. But yeah, this is an odd one because this is a kind of a classic, I guess you say Hollywood movie, but it's definitely got cult status written all over it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, dare I say campy. I think it's campy.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Yeah, I was happy to see. I guess one of your previous episodes, you had picked this, or said that one of your donators or supporters had picked this. So yeah, I messaged you. I'm like, hey, that gives me an excuse to watch my Blu-ray. I looked back. I literally bought this Blu-ray during the Indicator sale back in the summer of 2019. So it's almost been sitting around for 7 years now, unwatched. I'm like, well, this will give me an excuse to sit down and watch it. And yeah, I finally did. So thanks to whoever you said picked this out. Yeah, for making me, pull it off the shelf and finally give it a go.
I think it's Tyler or Jim Simon. It's one of those two. Yeah, so the cast is pretty remarkable. I mean, we got Elizabeth Taylor, Katharine Hepburn, Montgomery Clift, and my personal favorite in this one is Albert Decker, who is in the Wild Bunch.
Right.
And his last role was the Wild Bunch. And right when I saw him, I was like, oh, it's that mean son of a bitch from the Wild Bunch. But yeah, I think this is kind of odd. I can't believe I'm going to say this. When I saw the year on this, the written by Tennessee Williams, originally a playwright, and it was adapted by Gore Vidal. These are kind of big, huge names. And it definitely doesn't feel like it's made in 1959, especially when you compare like Psycho being 1960 and you say this is 1959. I would have guessed this was probably like late 40s, early 50s, just the style of acting and everything.
Right.
Katharine Hepburn can pull it off, but I'm going to be brutally honest here. This sounds like fucking blasphemy for most people that are probably in love with this movie. I don't think Elizabeth Taylor's very good in this.
Well, and it's funny. Well, do you want to set up what the plot's about? before we get into it?
Yeah.
Or do you want me to? All right.
You can. I mean, I'll
All
dive
right.
in if you forget anything.
Let me see. So essentially, Montgomery Clift is like a hotshot brain surgeon, and he sort of gets recruited by the uber rich Katharine Hepburn character, who is going to basically almost tries to bribe him into this lobotomy of a family member of hers, her niece, that is claimed to be going insane, in exchange for a donation towards their really rundown, underfunded clinic. Like a massive donation, like build a whole new wing or clinic or whatever. And then as he goes to examine this potential patient of his, it starts to kind of unravel layers of this sort of mystery, I guess you could call it, about what really transpired suddenly last summer.
The one thing, have you watched the Japanese Godfather series yet from
No, I
Radiance
have
Films?
not. I have not.
The doctor, well, I don't want to spoil it. There's this little part here. So the Japanese Godfather, his daughter ends up marrying a doctor.
Hmm.
And of course, the Godfather's like, don't worry about it. But basically buys him a fucking hospital. But, I basically own you now. This guy's
Right.
coming to the hospital. So I felt like very much in that kind of vein here. And everybody's putting pressure on Montgomery Clift to just do the surgery because Albert Decker, who runs the hospital, wants a new fucking neurology wing. So you're just like, did Montgomery Clift, he's a classic actor, of course. A
He is.
lot of these guys you hear millions of times, but I've not really seen much stuff with them because I'm too busy watching Ghoulies Go to College for the 12th time.
Yeah,
But
he was very much like a sort of method actor. He was kind of seen as like a contemporary to like Brando and that whole like new style of acting. So he was kind of like, I think he by this point he was nominated for several Academy Awards and stuff. But he had actually, so weirdly enough, number one, I think he puts in probably the most grounded performance in the movie, as far as the three
yeah,
leads go. Yeah,
grounded.
as far as the three
Subdued,
leads go.
subdued
Yes.
too.
Right. Well, and it's hard not to look subdued when you have you have Elizabeth Taylor and Katharine Hepburn just like shooting for the stars in every
Hepburn
scene.
comes across great though.
Now, I will say, if you like acting, this movie is full of acting because it is
Yeah.
like nonstop acting.
Well,
Like
I wouldn't
there's
say acting. I would say
there's like
acting.
right, exactly. There's not a point in this where you lose yourself in any of the characters. No, it's just like every point these people are just acting their asses off. Uh, it's not subtle.
Montgomery Clift seems like an insane person. Like his eyes, he seems crazy. Like I don't know when I was watching him, but he just made me uncomfortable. He seems
Yeah.
unhinged.
Well, so by this point, like I guess a few years before this, he had um he had actually left a party at Elizabeth Taylor's house. And he got into, I think he like ran into a telephone pole or a tree. He got into this bad car wreck, and like totally messed himself up, like needed plastic surgery. And it was strangely, I think it was Kevin McCarthy, actor Kevin McCarthy, that found him, because I guess he was like, he witnessed the accident or something. So by this point, he was actually like really boozed up and on pills. Um, and a lot of Hollywood people wouldn't hire him anymore. They thought he would be a mess and unreliable. But Elizabeth Taylor really pushed for him as the lead in this movie, and she won. But apparently he did have issues with as you had mentioned before. This was adapted from a Tennessee Williams play, and Tennessee Williams did Cat on a Hot Tin Roof and stuff like that. He was seen as this big playwright, but with this, it's obvious that this is a very stagey production. Like it's a very limited amount of locations, a lot of long monologues. But apparently Montgomery Clift had like problems with that and kept having to like get fed his lines or kept having to like get these like long takes broken up. Um, but honestly, yeah, I do think that he does give a bit more of a subdued performance. And to me, that just I think it's probably better than the two lead women. But
Well, Catherine Hepburn for me.
right, yeah, I mean she's both of them just eat up the screen. It's it's kind of, and that's kind of what makes the movie fun. I mean, other than the fact that the plot line does get pretty deranged as it goes on.
Especially for 59.
Right, which we can talk about in a minute. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, I'm like, what the hell do I know? Because both Katharine Hepburn and Elizabeth Taylor got nominated for Academy Awards for this, both for Best Actress. And Elizabeth Taylor actually won the Golden Globe for it.
That's crazy.
And I mean, the movie was a big hit, and well, before we get into the plot, I mean, I guess we should warn people because there's really no way to discuss this without discussing where it goes, because you do
and they try to keep it veiled as much as they can because the whole gay coded thing. But I mean, what do they call the women that go with guys that try to cover their sexual
beards
orientation? Beards, yeah. Essentially, he's using family members as beards, is what we find out, because what triggered Elizabeth Taylor's problems was she went on vacation with her cousin Sebastian, which is an infamously gay name because the old what was that? Is it a Greek myth? I can't think of the Sebastian story.
That I don't know, but yeah.
I mean, there's been a lot of adaptations of Sebastian, but it's a very gay coded name in general.
There's that one. What's
as is Bruce.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. Well, didn't you tell me you told somebody like, oh, I was talking to my friend Bruce. They're like, is he gay?
I did. I said,
but Sebastian,
I got Bruce is on the show. It's like, is he gay? I was like, no. I was like, why is his name Bruce then?
What's the name of that? Derek Jarman.
Derek Jarman. That's the Sebastian.
Sebastian.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's based on some other material too, and I definitely think that's got to be related to that somehow. But
makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and not only Tennessee Williams but Gore Vidal. I mean, they both have I mean, they're both known for kind of like pushing those boundaries. Especially Gore Vidal. But anyway, continue.
Yeah, so it ends up opening up into a really dark, nasty way where basically Katharine Hepburn's trying to order a lobotomy so she can keep her son's memory and I guess his character intact, because she's incredibly obsessed with him. And there's feel like incestuous tones between the mother and son and the cousin and son. It seems like everybody wants Sebastian, but he basically just used women to get young men and from what I understand, children. And I might suggest that they ripped him to pieces, limb from limb.
Yeah, I mean, it basically, supports cannibalism. And it's funny because the word cannibalism is what first got this movie on my radar, years back. And it's so weird. It's like, you watch this movie and like, if you try to describe to somebody like what this movie, the mystery finally unravels and, they're like, oh, what's it about? And you're like, oh, it's this, secret gay dude seducing, European children until they finally are full of his shit and then eat them to death. And you're like, what? Oh, who made this? This must be some sort of underground thing, right? And you're like, no, actually, it was like the most popular stars and production crew and, producers and directors in Hollywood at the time. And it was a huge blockbuster and nominated for Academy Awards. And you're like, what?
It sounds like, you sure that's not by the director of Singapore Sling?
Right.
That's what it sounds like to me, right? But,
so the production it was what the hell's the guy's name? Sam Spiegel, I think, was like the producer.
Yeah, Spiegel was the
he was coming off some big hits. I think that he had just done like The Bridge on the River Kwai.
That's a great movie.
Mankiewicz was still big. Like, I mean, he had some big hits with like All About Eve and stuff. I mean, he was a long-term studio guy. He had started writing and then moved into production, and then finally in the 40s he started directing. But by this point he had like kind of a couple of films I think that didn't do so great. But Katharine Hepburn, was obviously, I mean, she was nominated for Academy Awards like 20 times, and by this point she had kind of made a name for herself as, I mean, when stuff like The African Queen, and she was in Screwball, a few of the Screwball comedies
a couple times, and
so yeah, she was kind of known as being this like sort of like independent, like strong woman. And then Elizabeth Taylor had, she just came off a few. I mean, she was in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof as well. So she was kind of at her peak at this point. And that was the other thing, like the way they sold this movie, going into it, I literally thought that it was a like New England beach movie or something.
Oh.
And I because I mean the central image is like her in that white
Yeah.
bathing suit, Elizabeth Taylor in that white bathing suit. And you literally see her in the movie in that for like 4 seconds. And I'm like, that's what they like devised their whole marketing campaign around because they knew that's how they get people in. And then I turned it on. I'm like, oh, this is actually some like weird, macabre, Southern Gothic melodrama thing. I'm like, what the hell is this movie?
What's so weird is how disgusting they portray rich people. Like rich
Right,
people,
right.
like the idea that this guy would literally be like, I got to get my cousin, my mom, attract me little boys so I can molest them.
Yeah,
And it
yeah.
has this elaborate plan. It's like, Jesus Christ. Only if Americans and Europeans would rise up now and eat all the pedophiles, we'd
I
be
know,
in a better
right?
spot.
Well, and I thought maybe the script was gonna it was going to be like some sort of commentary about, because I had this word cannibalism in my mind. So I
Yeah.
thought maybe it was going to be some sort of commentary about the rich eating the poor. Or I thought they were going to kind of like use cannibalism as maybe like some sort of like thinly veiled allegory for homosexuality. And
Yeah.
instead they don't do any of that. Instead it's just like, no, this is pretty much what it is, and then we're going to do this.
I wonder who the real cannibals are, Bruce.
Right, right. But yeah, apparently we find out apparently.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, I guess originally it was a one act play that Tennessee Williams wrote because it was meant to
One
be like,
act.
yeah, it was meant to be like featured as like double bills. So I guess it was literally just a bunch of monologues of them telling the story back and forth.
What was the length still the same, or was it more so just
No,
like the
no.
last couple monologues at the end of the film? Is what I would
I
assume.
imagine probably like some at the beginning and some at the end, and because the movie definitely to me it felt padded. It feels like the runtime's way too long for what this is. I mean, it's close. It comes pretty close to clocking in the 2 hours, doesn't it? I think it's like $1.50 or $1.55 or something.
My runtime's all fucked up because I just watched that Sudden Fury and that thing was an hour and 48 minutes. So this movie felt like a breeze compared
I
to
was
that.
gonna say that seems like a little much for that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it definitely to me, for what the plot is and like the reveal that's coming and like when the steps to get there, it did feel like it was a little too padded. And apparently, like critics, there were critics at the time that had a similar complaint. They're like, it's a little too much for what this movie is, and I can agree with that. But at the same time, if you have these two very bankable, famous stars chewing up
Yeah.
the scenery like that, but yeah, I think your call of it being over the top, almost like the performances are so
camp.
so turned up that it becomes camp. I mean, they're
Yeah.
totally straight doing this. I mean, Katharine Hepburn is like so rich she doesn't even need stairs. Like she's introduced like slowly
She
descending
comes down
in this
like a
elevator.
Batman villain. She comes
Right,
down like
right.
a freaking Batman villain. Her introduction, my favorite stuff was when she took Montgomery Clift outside and she was like, what is this? I never met a plant that could eat, never saw a plant that could eat flesh or before. It's like, it's a Venus flytrap. You're like, oh, dude, come on, this
Well,
femme
that's the
fatale
thing.
crap was
And
just
it's
right
like
off the bat.
And it's like a puppet in a cage. They like built that thing. I'm like, it's like this big thing that they're like feeding. I'm like, it's almost like
Feed me, Seymour.
right. It's like out of, but it looks like the quality of like, was that Please Don't Eat My Mother? This something weird sexploitation thing with Harry Novak. That's like a riff off of off that. But yeah,
I don't know if I've seen that one. I have that though.
I thought that was going to, I thought that I somehow I kept like coming up with different ideas of what was going to happen in this movie. I thought something was going to be going on in the garden, or because and the whole thing. One of the things I did like about it is kind of the artifice of the whole thing. The acting is so turned up and like all that. Even like the outdoors of her backyard is obviously just this big set. This sprawling sort of like Hollywood set and stuff. So the artifice is kind of what I ended up really kind of appreciating about it, and the fact that it doesn't really act cinematically. You know what I mean?
It's a play. It's 100% a play. And like I was like, man, this feels so stagey. Like, and that's why when I saw that it was 1959, I was like, the fuck? Because I was like 1959 and it's that stagey.
Right.
Another thing I really liked actually was when Elizabeth Taylor snuck away and she actually walked into the mental institution ward, and it was straight like Son of a Thousand Maniacs, Freddy Krueger,
Yeah.
all the reaching up, and I was like, I bet, because that's the kind of shit. Even though that's not a Wes Craven one, the latter day ones, but I feel like which one was that from? That's probably 4 or 5.
Yeah, one of those. Yeah.
5's terrible, by the way, but 5 helps me 5. But that reminded me of that, like, you know what I mean? And that was pretty dark, pretty effective stuff there. And also,
not to go off.
You don't know if Elizabeth Taylor's gonna be bad because she's got that femme fatale stuff going on there, right? When she's like seducing him, and she clearly does have a sexual side where it's like, I don't really know if, because Montgomery Clift's believe in everything she says, and I don't believe everything she says. She does seem a little off too.
Right. Well, and that's the other thing. I kept wondering if maybe it was going to come to light that Elizabeth Taylor did have something to do with it. If actually she was just as guilty, maybe they were, and I kept wondering if maybe they were doing something together over in Europe, instead, whereas she says, he was using her to lure people out. I kept wondering, well, maybe she was somehow involved in all this to a greater level. I thought maybe they were going to be murdering people or, something like that. I thought maybe it was going to be something bigger than it was, and I kept waiting for these like sort of reveals that like none of the weird plot lines in my head that I was formulating as I was going through this movie really played out the way I was expecting them to.
Also,
I mean,
it's interesting.
The fact that it did kind of keep me guessing where it was going, I guess, is I guess a good thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's interesting the fact that they don't show Sebastian. They keep him as like this character that's hidden in the shadows the entire time. And I don't know if they wanted it to be like kind of a larger than life character or something, kind of keep it hidden or just in memory. But the way they do the flashbacks where you see like him walking up the things and everything like that, pretty wild. And like the way she's saying that, like, were they actually chasing him? Because he seemed to be panicking. He must have done something worse than he normally does. Maybe killed somebody. Who knows?
Yeah, it's funny because all of that architecture and like the people running through the streets of like, whatever they were, Spain or whatever, it really reminded me actually of like Who Could Kill a Child.
I knew you were going to say that. I almost cut you off to say it, but
that's funny.
For sure.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, Who Could Be a Child? That Who Can Kill a Child is like a good horror movie that has like 2-3 amazing scenes in it. It's a great one.
Yeah, I really like that movie a lot.
It's a good one.
I mean, I probably put it in my top 10 Spanish horrors, I would say.
Let Sleeping Corpses Lie, although it's a co-production with Italy, is my favorite, I think. That would be my favorite. Yeah, it'd be hard to beat that one. I don't know. I'd have to sit down. Spain has a lot more movies than I would remember. You know what I mean? It's like the third, fourth best country for horror films.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's another topic for another episode.
Yeah, for sure. Man, this is an odd one because did Warner Brothers do this one? Who owns this one?
I have the I think it's
probably Columbia.
I think it's Sony. Yeah, Columbia
Sony. Yeah, that's usually the separate titles.
Yeah, I have the UK one, the Indicator, which apparently has a bunch of extras on it, but I haven't watched any of them. Literally, I just watched this movie for the first time. Like, I just finished watching this like an hour before we started recording. So
I think I watched it a few days ago. So it's still fresh in my memory because it's not really a forgettable movie. Even no matter what you think about it, you remember it pretty well. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's such kind of like it builds to such a kind of demented and deranged climax, and it's still kind of surprising that they got away with that stuff in '59. I saw something that said basically the only reason why they're allowed to get away with such a obviously gay character is because he was kind of seen as the bad guy, and because he got like some sort of comeuppance. And
I wonder if no actor wanted to play him.
Right. Yeah. Because like you said, they keep his face hidden for the most part. I mean, it's
you never see him.
You see his hands and his legs and like the back of him and stuff. But there's not. I don't even know who the actor actually was.
Might have been multiple actors, to be honest.
Yeah, it could have been.
It's an odd film. I mean, Mankiewicz did a bunch of other bigger films. Are you familiar with any of his other movies? Are we both just Crooked Man Guide? I mean, that just appeals to me.
Did he do Cleopatra after this? I can't remember if he directed that or not. I know because that's probably Elizabeth Taylor's most famous role, I would say. But that was after this. I think that was like 63 or something.
Was Cleopatra like the first big money movie that they put money in, or which is the one that was like that big epic that like flopped and then they were like, "Fuck."
I feel like to that level, yeah. I mean, Cleopatra was giant. Plus, it's bloated. It's funny. A buddy of mine bought that for us to watch at the movie night at some point because we're like, as film nerds, there's certain movies you feel like you have to watch at some point, and that one was on our list. But every time we look at it, we're like, this fucking thing's like 4 hours long. Like, I'm like, I'd rather watch like two other shitty driving.
I'd rather watch the unofficial Troll series.
Yeah, right.
All three of them in the same time.
Exactly. So yeah, we haven't gotten around to watching Cleopatra yet, but someday we will. I mean,
usually though, movies like that, like if you watch them and it's 3 hours long, at least you're like, A, it was an epic and I loved it, or B, I learned something and it's like a historical piece of the puzzle. But when you put in like a modern day 3 hour movie and you're just like, I'm gonna fucking stab somebody right now. This is a piece of shit. Like, it's a bloated shit. I can't stand that. I want to die. If you're over 2 hours and you're modern and you're not like amazing or at least good, I will be irate.
Yeah. There's only a few that I think have really gone that length without me having to look at the clock and just be like, what the hell's going on here? I mean, like some like I really liked One Battle After Another, and that was pretty long, and I felt like that kind of flew by. But yeah, not too many others.
I remember I saw the Kill Bill back in the theater together that came through, and I watched all 5 hours of that, and I was like, you know what, that went by pretty fucking quick. And I mean, that's not a new movie, but it's newish, but in a double like that. So I don't have too much more to say about this one. I don't mind doing this for the Patreon picks. I need to draw out what's coming up next down the pipe. I don't know what is, but if you see something you like, just jump on.
Yeah. Always happy to have somebody push my butt to watch something that's been sitting around for 7 years.
I was gonna laugh
if not longer. I mean, I've been trying to actively. I have so much crap, and I mean, I know you're in the same boat. But I've been actively like trying to go back and just because theoretically everything I buy is something I wanted to watch at some point. So I've been trying to like go back and like actually pull like old things, and I'm amazed like how many DVDs I still have from like 20 some years ago that I haven't watched yet. So I've been like actively trying to just pull all these old discs that just I never got around to watching.
That's why I love doing the 80s things, because every once in a while there's like a heavy hitter that I haven't seen. Like for 84, I've never seen Company of Wolves, which is crazy.
Oh.
It's weird. Crazy. That's the big one that I haven't seen from 84. But no, today this week I dug out one Blu-ray that I've had for 11 years, and I put it in from Scream Factory.
Right. Which one?
From 83, and it was a fucking turd bomb. Exterminators from the year 3000.
Oh, I kind of like that one.
That's the worst post-apocalyptic movie of Italy and Spain. It was so bad.
It's not though. There was like Rush or Man Called Rage and Rush or Man Called Rush. Yeah, I think it's Rush and a Man Called
Rush is one, and a Man Called Rage. Those are both Italian too. I think they're on my tier 3 list.
Those two are probably my least favorites. Is Exterminator in the year 3000 the one where they run out of water? They're looking for water.
Yeah. Okay. That's like all of them though.
But that's not the one with the cyborg kid that gets drunk and bends wrenches, is it?
That's him.
Oh, how do you not like this? I mean,
bro, what are you talking about? It's so boring. Watch it again. It's so mediocre.
I mean, to be fair, I haven't watched it in like 30
years. The worst villain. It has the worst villain out of any of them. It's just it's like some 50-year-old fucking Spanish guy that has zero charisma that's a ripoff of Vernon Wells. Who the fuck rips off Vernon Wells?
Right. Every Road Warrior ripoff.
Yeah, but like, usually they throw somebody in there. They're like, we got George Eastman. We got fucking Vic Morrow. They have somebody with name value, you know what I mean? Or at least screen presence. This guy looks like he fucking has to wear a diaper.
Look, the way I see it, if I can still remember that there's a drunk cyborg kid that bends wrenches after like decades, that's got to mean something, right?
I don't know. Our memories are weird. We remember every detail about a terrible movie and then don't even remember what day it is.
Right. Good point.
Like I couldn't think of the movie today, the one with the guy who directed The Wolf of Snow Hollow. He directed that like noir western thing that was really good, and I tried to think of the name of that. I couldn't remember it. It came out like 2 years ago.
Jim Mickle, is that his name?
No, Jim Mickle's a different guy. Mickle did Cold J in July. It is Jim though. It is Jim.
I can see him.
Yeah, he's like a lanky guy.
Jim. Are you talking about that? So the one you're talking about, is that the one where they're like the salesman at the diner?
And he finds the money? That's a great movie. Okay. I can't remember the fucking name.
Weirdly enough, my dad watched that on cable one night. He watched it and he was trying to describe it to me. And I was like, strangely enough, I was like, I know exactly what you're talking about. Because he fell asleep and didn't see the ending. So he had no idea how it turned out.
That's a good movie, though.
Yeah. What the hell's the name of that? Last Stop at Yuma County?
That's 100% it, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Now I just got to remember his name. Jim. I I like The Wolf at Snow Hollow too. I thought
Me
that was
too.
actually pretty
I like that one
surprising.
even better.
Yeah, yeah. Fuck. All right. My phone's in the other room, so I can't even cheat. Whatever. Doesn't matter.
Just
Doesn't
have
matter.
to suffer for it.
We're not
Jim,
here to.
fuck. It is Jim.
Yeah, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Suddenly Last Summer. Although I have nothing else left to talk about.
I'm done. I'm
Right.
all drained out.
But yeah,
So-
I mean, I guess final thoughts for me. Not terrible. I saw your letterbox rating. You gave it like 6 out of 10. I think I'm in about agreement on that. It was fun. I liked it. I didn't love it. I don't know that it's anything I'll necessarily return to, but there's things about it I'll remember.
Yeah, it's definitely memorable, and
Right.
it's definitely a good reference point too.
Mhm.
But I remember, like, it's not like when I watched Gun Crazy and I was like, "Oh, that was fucking awesome." You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
right,
Like,
right,
it's not
yeah,
like that.
yeah,
When you
yeah,
a
no.
lot of these are instant classics to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you watch them, or like
Yeah, I
Desperate
think-
Hours, almost any of them really are
Right.
pretty fucking good.
Yeah, I think the most fascinating thing about this one for me is just the fact that it's such a kind of weird idea, and the fact that so many giant people were involved in it at the time. Like it's insane for me to think that like all of these, greats, like all these people that were kind of almost at their peak, or just shortly past their peak, or shortly just before their peak. This is like Hollywood royalty that made this just nutty little movie.
Yeah, man, they got away with it. Obviously, probably the name recognition of Tennessee Williams helped.
Right.
But he must
Well,
have been crazy
yeah,
too.
and Elizabeth Taylor. I mean, she was,
Yeah.
like I said, she was, I think at this time, she was pretty much like huge. I think this was like practically, during the height of her popularity.
So Jeremy's terrible with pop culture, and I was watching. I was like, "Oh, that's Elizabeth Taylor," and I was like, you know what's fucked up? The only thing I can think of when I think of Elizabeth Taylor is John Belushi as Elizabeth Taylor. Like, when he's like, "I heard you're starting a new diet," and he's just like strictly chicken, and he's just eating fucking all rotisserie chicken.
That's so funny.
That's the reference point for me with Elizabeth Taylor. Although I've seen her on.
My main reference point for her, I'm a decade older than you, I guess. So my main reference point is I remember in the 80s she kissed somebody with AIDS, and that was like big news at the time, because that was still like it was the 80s. Everybody was like deathly afraid of AIDS, and there was so
Yeah.
much crap going on. But like by the time, like, when Elizabeth Taylor got on my radar, like she was older and heavier, and so it's still funny to me to go back and be like, oh no, she was a knockout.
Yeah,
Like I can
she was a
see why
knockout.
she was, I can see why she was a huge star at the time, and this
That'd
is
be like
before,
Us
before all
popping
the
on
stuff
like
with,
Golden Girls and being like,
Right.
Ruth McKellen's hot.
right.
Like,
Well, and during the 80s, like all you would hear about is like, oh, all of her like failed marriages, and oh, she was friends with Michael Jackson, and just like all this stuff, like all the tabloid
stuff.
stuff is the stuff I would know about her. I didn't know her from her movies because I was
Yeah.
a kid. I'm not watching Elizabeth Taylor movies, they weren't like current. So
yeah, the only old
yeah.
movies I would watch were like old westerns and war movies that came on TV, and they just had
Right.
a bunch of actors that I recognized, so I watched them.
Yeah, I
Pretty
would
much it.
watch like, I mean, I would see like the Universal horror movies.
No,
on
horror, oh,
TV,
of course, that's a given.
and like the Abbott and Costello movies and stuff like
course.
that. But yeah, generally, yeah, it's, I didn't seek out older movies. I would, like when we went to the rental stores, I wasn't like
I immediately ran over to
scoping
the
out
horse section.
classics. Right, exactly.
Ran right over to the horse section.
Right. I
And
wanted
then
to
the
see- I wanted
sci-fi
to- I wa-
section.
yeah, I wanted to see whatever I just read about in Fangoria, and that was it. And usually my parents were like, "Are you sure?"
Make them die slowly. I don't know about this
Right,
one.
right, yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on. You got any plugs? Make sure you say them clearly because I can't share links anymore.
Yeah, right. No, nothing I can talk about. I can tell you I've been working my butt off on some stuff, but yeah, nothing for public consumption yet.
All right. Ghoulies 4 finally coming to Blu-ray, guys. You heard it here first. Day one buy.
Right. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. See you. All right, we're going to do something a little different with the Patreon pick. I hope you guys enjoyed that. But not always going to have that, but here we go. Let's just do the 2 comments that I did get from people. Not many comments, of course, because nobody saw it. But some people did see it. So we have No More Room in Hell podcast. What's up, Mike? Arrow's Dollar Trilogy 4K set seems so much more stacked. He said the Arrow's Dollars Trilogy set seems so much more stacked than the Kino releases. Can't decide whether to pull the trigger on grabbing the set or holding out for Kino's American distro rights to expire, so maybe Arrow gets a crack at Region 1 stack release, including all the extended extended versions? I don't know. I have no idea. I thought about importing the Arrow ones myself. I love Kino, but you know, they're usually pretty affordable discs, so that's always a positive. You know, the Arrow ones are not unaffordable, but maybe I will import them because they're such great movies. It doesn't hurt. They have 2 copies of you know, the Sergio Leone's Dollars trilogy. Dick from Flanders 59, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. I grew up loving this feature. In fact, I still love it. I always put it on when I'm feeling down and in need of positive boost. I'll need to pick up the 4K though, ASAP. I think you recommended Frightmare, aka the Horse Show, back in the day. I sure enjoyed it. This picture is something else. Wouldn't we all like him to make a comeback like that? Yeah. Questions. Would you recommend the Beyond 6 disc upgrade to those of us who had previous releases? I haven't popped in the Beyond 6 disc, but anytime Grindhouse upgrades one of them, I'm definitely going to recommend you picking it up, so I have it. Do you have a favorite neo-western that was released recently? What was the one? See, this is the problem with getting old. You watch new movies and you're like, the one with, the guy, he directed Wolf of Snow Hollow. He directed one that was pretty damn good. I cannot remember the name, but he did one and he stars in. I guess you'd call it kind of a modern day noir kind of western kind of style thing. I would recommend that one if you consider it a western. It's more of a crime noir kind of thing, but it does have some western touches as well. Do you think that the fears of background artists, aka extras and stuntmen, is justified? Namely, the AI shall replace them all. I do think the fear of AI is understandable. I don't know. Maybe in 20 years they'll be laughing at us that people were afraid of it, but I do think, because I from what I've talked to people, I don't want to be, you know, the sky is falling kind of guy, but I've heard a couple of people say that the industry in Hollywood is not doing well. I don't fucking know, though. This is hearsay, so what not. And maybe somebody can comment on it and say, no, we're doing great, it's fine, shut your mouth. I don't know, but I'm just saying. Till next time, God willing, I hope your YouTube troubles will be a thing of the past soon, sir. Take care. Thank you very much. But we don't have an update. I did get one thing, but I'm sending it back because it came damaged, and I want a replacement, of course, before I show you it. It's very strange, and I reached out to the company, and they were like, we don't pack stuff like that, so that was probably a third party or something like that. So regardless, they're taking care of it, so everything will be okay. But yeah, let's get out of here. For some reason, I forgot to do my Patreon pick, so here's a quickie way. You can see kind of the new, slightly improved movie room. I cleaned it up a bit, so I know. Just doing a Patreon pick really quick because I'm in a rush, like always. We have Chris Rivers, where am I at? The Blackening. We have Buckflower movie, haven't seen, by John Wilhelm. Gotta love that. Buckflower. Love Buckflower. Hope he gets cancer and fucking dies. Wishmaster love right there. Okay, what do we got here? There's Always Tomorrow, Tyler Tadeo, Douglas Sirk, another classic film. Rome, Open City. I don't know this one, so that's 4. And the last one will be, let's just take this little guy here, Breathless, which I've already covered, so we're not doing that. And what do we have here? Chris Rivers, Never So Few. Isn't that the Frank Sinatra one? Yeah, but good little picks here, so yeah, there we go. Alright guys, thank you very much for watching, and as always, have a good one.